كلمة أديكوا كمان ديك عبتان الصومالي أو إلهي ما بقول لك الصومالي إنما لا الصومالي إنما لا الصومالي إنما لا كونا أبا يا أوجي بقول أنت حرام بهاي الصومالي كمان وانا على بهاي الصومالي كده على كل مطعم نعلى وجهك يا ماستر وجهك بلاستر يا أخوي الصوماليات ما تدرو كلمة دي نغرش سوا مرة على نعلى بهاي كلمة دي والسلمة دي ودي عبادة بعطاي سوا ولا كرت الصوماليات ما نقول نايا يا خارج الصوماليات نايا كلمة دي نعلى إلهي كمان دي الصوماليات لا ترد بعد هؤلاء الصوماليات بعد كلمة
A moment of humiliation, a spark of violence that does not rely on fists or firearms, but on venom born of deep-seated denial. This is not mere anger, it is a palpable fracture of a nation at war with its own identity. She dared to claim her heritage, boldly calling herself Somali. For that, she was met with a torrent of scorn, not for the sound of her words, but for the legacy they invoked. A name once spoken with pride has become a forbidden whisper. A flag once uniting hearts is now branded as treason. This fury is not the outburst of one man alone. It mirrors a deeper, insidious conflict. It is a government waging war on its own past. A system so fragile that a single name, a solitary hue, a whispered memory can shatter its foundation. For over 30 years, Somaliland has labored to rewrite its narrative. Somalia has been excised from textbooks, its flag condemned as a relic of betrayal, its true history replaced by sterile fiction. In a nation that trembles at the sound of its own memory, every act of recollection becomes a bold reclaiming of truth. History is not a decree to be signed, a banner to be burned, nor a name to be silenced. To understand this battle, we must journey back to the very genesis of this contested legacy. The war against Somalia did not end with a single revolution. It transformed. Born from a rebellion, Somaliland emerged as a defiant beacon against Siad Barre's despotic reign. Though his government has long since crumbled and his armies dissolved into the dust, the struggle endures, not on distant battlefields, but on the city streets, school textbooks, and in the collective soul of a people. Today, Somaliland wages a silent, relentless war, a war on memory, on names, on symbols. Its constitution proclaims sovereignty in Article 1, yet it stifles unity in Article 7, strips citizenship from those tied to Somalia in Article 8, and criminalizes even the murmur of reunification in Article 269. Historical accounts reveal that this legal architecture is not merely administrative, it is ideological. By erasing all ties to Somalia, the state seeks to forge a new identity, one unburdened by a shared past. But in doing so, it deepens the wounds of people whose heritage is too profound to be forgotten. In a land where history is equated with treason, silence becomes both sanctuary and sentence. Poets, musicians, and thinkers, those who dare to remember, stand at the front line of oppression. Their art is not celebrated, it is weaponized. When the state hears verses that evoke unity, it responds with brutal force. Consider the case of poet Naima Qorane. Imprisoned for describing Somaliland as a region rather than a nation. Or poet Abdurrahman Abbas, whose verses celebrate unity, were deemed subversive. And the fate of musician Nim'an Hila, silenced for singing in Mogadishu, a melody resonating with defiant hope. In this regime, words become indictment and thoughts become crimes. Here, when history itself is branded as treason, silence is not just a means of survival, it is enforced law. when voices of dissent are muzzled, every whispered verse, every secret note becomes an act of rebellion, a testament to the undying spirit of people determined to remember. But history is an unstoppable tide, rising inexorably against repression. For decades, Somaliland claimed the Eastern Territories, Sol and Senag regions, as its own. Yet the people of those lands never accepted this imposed dominion. In February 2023, that fragile illusion was shattered. For weeks, the citizens of Las Anod united in defiance, a chorus crying for unity and truth. The state's response was savage: arrests, ruin, torrents of violence.
Somaliland has been withdrawing its forces in the Sul region. The battle over Las Anod has raged for weeks. The retreat by Hargeis's troops could mark a turning point in the conflict.
Yet from this crucible of resistance emerged SSC Khatumo, a movement born of the very spirit the regime sought to erase. Once an insurgent force, Somaliland had become its own oppressor, and those it sought to silence rose as the architects of its downfall. The fall of Las Anod is a powerful testament. A city's spirit is unyielding, and its people's identity is indomitable flame that no regime can extinguish. In the heart of Las Anod, the struggle is not against a single leader, but against the erasure of a collective soul, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of a shared identity perseveres. You may outlaw a flag, but you cannot outlaw memory. You may excise words from textbooks, yet you cannot erase the whispered lore passed from elders to their grandchildren. You may prison a poet, but you cannot contain the external spark of a thought. Somaliland was constructed upon the deliberate erasure of history, and now that very act is consuming it. For identity is not inscribed in decrees or government documents. It is deeper. It is woven into the blood, the heart, and the collective memory of a people. And no matter how deeply it is buried, truth always finds a way to rise. As we look to the future, we witness a quiet revolution, a rebirth of identity that defies the forces of erasure, in classrooms, on streets. And though the resurgent voices of a people once silenced, the true story of Somalia endures. New generation reclaims their heritage through art, music, and unyielding solidarity. Identity is not a crime, history is not a threat, and memory, yes, memory, is the ever-burning light that guides us forward.